Hey everybody, it's GomodX and welcome back to another premiere draft of Strixhaven. Here we have a nice monocolored rare here, Dream Strix, 3 mana for a 3/2 flyer. When it becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it, and when it dies, learn. Most of the time, when it becomes the target of a spell, it's going to be becoming the target of a removal spell anyway, so that's not a massive drawback, and the ability to learn when it dies is really solid. It's a 3 mana 3/2 flyer with what basically evens out to a slight upside, because sure, sacrificing when it becomes a target of a spell is a minor downside because it can die to like pump spells occasionally, but learning when it dies is a pretty big upside, so pretty great card all around, and it leaves us open to being able to draft Quandrix or Prismari blue or red here. Igneous Inspiration is probably my second pick out of this pack. It's a really, really good removal spell. 3 mana to do 3 to something and learn. Learning has just performed very, very well for me. It's comparable in power level to like draw a card. I would even say better in some situations based on how good your lessons are, because you get to pick whichever lesson is best for the position you're in. Let's see what this rare is here. This definitely seems like a constructed kind of card. Stopping people from casting a certain spell. Or you can get a temporary shut off of one of their blockers. Yeah, it doesn't seem awesome. I think Divide by Zero is a really solid card. 3 mana for an instant speed bounce spell. It can bounce a spell as well, which is really good. There are some very powerful, expensive spells in the format, so if you're playing against like a Prismari deck and they make it to their 7 mana for their big 7 mana disastrous spells, just holding them off for 1 turn from casting those can often win you the game. If you're an aggressive deck, you can kind of like time walk them in that way. Just like prevent their whole turn, their whole game plan. Yeah, there's not much else going on in this pack, so I'm pretty happy with Divide by Zero as our pick here. And we may just move into Prismari, because I do like the Maelstrom Muse. Maelstrom Muse, a 2/4 flyer for 4. Whenever it attacks, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less, where X is its power as this ability resolves. Most of the big spells in Prismari that you are trying to ramp into are 7 mana, and this curves out really well into those. You play this on turn 4 for 4 mana, attack with it, and your next spell only costs 5 instead of 7 if it's a 7 drop, so you can curve into it super well off of 1 attack with this. Honestly, obviously it has to stick around to be able to do that, and it doesn't have any way to protect itself really, but it's still very, very solid. It's also got a nice amount of toughness to just help block against more aggressive decks and stem the bleeding there before you start going off with this. I do like Frostboil Snarl, but honestly, the rare lands in the set are not quite as good as the common ones, because the ability to scry in the late game is actually very, very good and worth coming into play tapped for. So we're not going to take that rare land incredibly highly here, and we're also not in Prismari until we take a Prismari card, so I'm not going to take that kind of mana fixing until I have a card like Maelstrom Muse. So what do we have here? We have Spectacle Mage, which can work well with the casting large instants and sorceries theme, make them cheaper. We have Pigment Storm, which is a converted mana cost 5 or greater, instant or sorcery to cast. It's also a good removal spell, 5 damage to a creature, and do a little bit of damage to your opponent's face if you are shooting a small toughness creature. Pop Quiz for another learn card. We already have 2 learn cards this early on out of the 3 cards that we have, so I'm not super interested in Pop Quiz right now, although it is a good card. We've got Waterfall Aerialist for just a flyer. I think it's between Spectacle Mage and Pigment Storm for me. Teach by Example is just not great in my opinion. I think I'm going to take the removal here, just take the Pigment Storm. But yeah, Teach by Example is like 2 mana, and then you copy the next spell that you cast. That seems pretty iffy, because it has to be very much drawn in the right situation. There's going to be a lot of times you just never have the mana to copy something with that, and when you do, it might not be enough. So now we have a few cards here. I think the 2 cards I like the most would be Tome Shredder, a 3 mana 2/2 haste that also gets larger throughout the game. If you have a lot of instants and sorceries in your deck, this can get really big, so I do like this card quite a bit. And there's Environmental Sciences as well, which is a very solid lesson. We do have multiple learn spells already. just a great lesson because anytime you're stuck on mana, maybe you have, a 5 or 7 mana card in your hand, you can pick this up when you cast Divide by Zero or Dream Strix dies. I think I'm just going to go with the Tome Shredder, though. If we stick to just the 2-color deck, we don't super need like a ton of that land fixing lesson. And I would be really interested in grabbing some of the lessons that are just like a 5 mana 4/4, like elemental summoning, stuff like that, is I think the stuff that I'd like the most in this sort of deck. Here I'm just going to take a Spectacle Mage, again, make our high mana cost stuff cheaper. Negate is playable. There are a lot of instants and sorceries, and a lot of people will be trying to cast them as they are a primary mechanic of the set, Magecraft, stuff like that, that is benefiting off of casting instants and sorceries. So Negate will usually have targets, but I still don't like main decked counterspells that much, especially ones that don't hit any card, that only hit specific types. Wow, we got some late campuses here, which is nice. Witherbloom Campus and Silverquill Campus. However, neither of those are even tangentially related to our college here. Neither of these have blue or red in them. If one of these was like Quandrix or Lowerhold, I might even just take a campus here. Because I think they are really good, and that would help me splash if I end up wanting to splash something. But instead, since the only cards in our color are just not good, Dragon's Approach only doing 3 damage to an opponent, not doing anything else unless you have like a whole playset of this card, and Teach by Example again just not being my cup of tea, I'm just going to take an Introduction to Annihilation here. It's a solid lesson. Whenever you really need to kill something, you can learn into that, and it's just nice to have at your disposal. Now we have Stormkiln Artist, or Bury in the Books, or Sudden Breakthrough. I like all of these cards a decent amount. I haven't played with the Stormkiln Artist yet, but I've played against it and it seems quite solid. It definitely does what Prismari is trying to do. Whenever you're casting your instants and sorceries, you're getting treasure tokens, which will help you ramp into like one big 7 mana spell to try to close out the game. It also gets plus power for each artifact you control. Yeah, I think I'm going to try out the Stormkiln Artist here, but I do think Bury in Books and Sudden Breakthrough are both solid. I think I'd take Bury in Books before the Sudden Breakthrough in our current deck, because we do have a little bit that can combo with making Bury in Books cheaper, like the Spectacle Mage here, the Maelstrom Muse, so I'm looking for like big, powerful instant sorceries over the slightly cheaper, more efficient ones. So Prismari Apprentice, 2 mana for a 2/2. When you cast an instant or sorcery, it can't be blocked this turn. If it has mana value 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Well, that is great with stuff like Pigment Storm, and if we get more high mana cost stuff. Very interested in that. Also interested in Tome Shredder. That's just always going to be a good time. And Prismari Pledge Mage is good on turn 2 to hold the fort a little bit. Get a 2 mana 3/3. Stop the more aggressive decks. Give you time to ramp into your 7 mana spells. So here we have Fuming Effigy and Pillar Drop Warden. I think Pillar Drop Warden is the better card for Prismari decks, while Fuming Effigy is better in Lorehold. In Lorehold, you do have a lot of cards to bring things back from the grave or exile cards from the grave, so you can get some value out of this effect, and it tends to be a more aggressive college. So just the higher power toughness is good. Pillar Drop Warden is just a really good blocker. It's like a 1/5 blocker, so it holds the fort, gives you time to save up the mana for your massive instants and sorceries, and then once you've cast them, you can even sacrifice this to do it all over again, bring one of them back. So I do like Pillar Drop Warden a lot in Prismari. Here I'm just going to take Academic Dispute. It's the only card in our colors, and while this doesn't have that great of effect, it is a little situational, forcing something to block one of your cards. It's also just 1 mana at instant speed to learn, and that's already just probably fine with enough good lessons. I'll take another Spectacle Mage here, 3 mana 2/2 flyer, make our big stuff cheaper. We are definitely picking up some of the enablers for casting massive spells, so I will be very excited to see what kind of massive spells we might end up getting. Negate or Academic Dispute. I'm not really going to run counter spells in here. I'll just pick up another Academic Dispute for now. And a Barag Befuddler. Gonna toss some last pick negates to whoever wants them. All right, well, there we go. The Mystical Archive is pretty insane, and it can lead to some really fun stuff like this, like ending up in a Prismari deck and then getting an 11 mana instant. Of course, This card is really powerful and limited because we can just cast it at 3 mana for just an uncounterable 3 to any target, just a solid removal spell there. And if we manage to get to that 11 mana, we can just try to close out the game with this by hitting our opponent's face for 10 damage. So that's a really fun card to try out here. I'm definitely going to try this Urza's Rage. Worst case scenario, it is 3 mana for 3 damage. Unfortunately, the way that Kicker works, I don't think that Kicker counts towards its mana value technically. So I don't think like if I kick this, it counts as something with mana value 5 or greater. So I'm not sure it gets actually cost reduced by the Spectacle Mages. We'll have to see later on. I assume the vast majority of the time we'll just be throwing that for 3 damage as just a solid removal spell, but I would like to live the dream once or twice. Okay, here we have another solid pack, in part due to the Mystical Archive again. Shock here. 1 red to do 2 to any target, just a cheap, efficient removal spell. But there's also Practical Research. We are looking for more mana value 5 instants and sorceries, and this is a very nice one. Draw 4 cards at instant speed and then discard 2 unless you discard an instant or sorcery. Really nice card draw in the late game. Kind of a hard choice between Shock and Practical Research. Practical Research, I guess, definitely more likely to wheel. I think it's like a 0% chance that Shock wheels because the other red cards in this pack just aren't very good. Hall Monitor's not great. Spirit Summoning is solid though, just because it's a lesson, so the card doesn't have to be that powerful to be good because it has that lesson subtype. But yeah, like there's only 2 good red cards in this pack, I'd say, so I don't think Shock's going to wheel, but at the same time, if there's a single Prismari player, they're probably taking Practical Research there, so I'm just going to scoop that up, make sure we have more to combo with our cards like Prismari Apprentice, and now that we do have more to combo with Prismari Apprentice, I think I'd like a second one here. Yeah, being able to get +1/+1 counters on this thing while it just keeps attacking and unblockable seems pretty great, and we've got 2 cards to combo with that right now. We can pick up more as things go on here. That seems potentially pretty great. I think the next best card for our deck specifically, we've got a decent amount of Learn, so probably just another lesson here, Introduction to Annihilation. That also is a 5 mana sorcery, so it triggers cards like Prismari Apprentice, and it's cheaper with our Spectacle Mages. That's basically it. I'm not a huge fan of the Ogier Battle Seer. Well, I guess it's fine. Just keep scrying and it's a decent blocker. Ooh, wow. This is a difficult pick. We have a lot of great stuff here. What do we have in terms of lessons? We only have Introduction to Annihilation as a lesson right now, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 cards that can learn already. I guess worst case scenario with Learn, you can just discard a card to draw a card if you don't have any more lessons. So maybe I do still take Creative Outburst because it is really important and really good with like the Spectacle Mages and Maelstrom Muses, and we just don't have like a massive instant or sorcery yet. We definitely want at least one at the top end. This one, 5 to any target, then look at the top 5, grab the best card from those and put it into your hand. I guess I will take Creative Outburst, but Pigment Storm, Elemental Summoning, and Bury in the Books are all really good here. I'll easily just take a Prismari Campus here. I guess it's not that easily, because we do have Spirit Summoning. We do need those more lessons. But maybe we're not really aggressive enough to make great use of the Academic Disputes, in which case how much Learn would we have? Just 2 Learn cards? I think I'd be okay with like 2 Learn cards and only a couple lessons, so I don't think I need to take something like Spirit Summoning incredibly highly here. I'll just take the Prismari Campus for that great mana fixing, and the late game Scry can be quite good too. We can take another Tome Shredder. Whirlwind Denial actually is a counterspell I'd be a lot more interested in than Negate, because they're just never going to hold the mana up for a taxing counterspell. They're just not going to expect it because they're really only in the Mystical Archive. Although we have Environmental Sciences as a good lesson. Soothsayer Adept as a good blocker in the early game that turns into looting later on. Draw us out of Flood. This is a really solid pack again. Adept, Tome Shredder, Whirlwind Denial. Take another Tome Shredder here, I think. Maybe I overvalue that card, but I do like it quite a bit. So Test of Talents is pretty much negate, but you like exile all of the copies of the card that you exiled from their deck. which is interesting. But again, it's still basically just negate, so I think it's between like these card draw spells. We have Opt, Pop Quiz, Ogier Battle Seer here. Only 11 creatures right now, but we don't need a million in Prismari. Try a Pop Quiz. I think that's probably better than Opt. And we'll see if we can get more good lessons. Really don't like start from scratch though. I don't think there are that many fantastic artifacts to blow up, but at the same time it doesn't cost you a slot in the deck, so this gives you main deckable artifact hate in a way. Every learn card that you have all of a sudden turns into a card that can destroy an artifact when you need to. The 1 damage very, very rarely comes into play. I'm just going to take another Stormkiln Artist. I'm just going to keep not following my own advice and not taking the lessons highly. Ardent Dust Speaker seems really solid, but so is Fractal Summoning. So Ardent Dust Speaker, 5 mana for 3/4 when it attacks, put an instant or sorcery from your graveyard on bottom of your library, exile the top 2 cards of your library, and you can play them this turn. It's really good if you can get an attack out with it, but it's also a 3/4 for 5, so it might be difficult. I'm just going to take the Fractal Summoning. Fractal Summoning is the kind of card that it doesn't look very good, because usually these sort of effects are just not that good and limited. Just like 2 mana plus X to get an XX. That is just a lot of mana to do that, but the fact that it's a lesson makes it really good, because now all of a sudden in their early game, what we're drawing off of our lessons is just a 3 mana 3/2, and then in the late game, if we top deck a Divide by Zero when we have like 8 lands out, we can cast this in their end step, grab a Fractal Summoning, and then just cast a 6/6 or 7/7 next turn. So Fractal Summoning, really nice lesson. I do like having that at my disposal. And I guess we are going to get these Battle Seers really late, although Vortex Runner is good as well. Yeah, no, Vortex Runner is actually really solid if you're a slower kind of deck that's trying to play towards the late game. Like, if you're the kind of deck that's not really going to win until you have 8 or more lands out anyway, which I think most Prismari decks end up being in the first place, it can be good. Just take a Curate here over the Fuming Effigy. Hey, we did wheel that Whirlwind in Denial. Getting a really late Ogier Battle Seer as well, I may try out. So we have Radiant Scroll Wielder. This card is annoying. It is really, really strong. This is the kind of card you have to kill immediately or you're going to lose, but the problem is it doesn't kill you the turn it comes out. It kills you in a giant war of attrition. I had a really, really sad game against this card one time where they dropped it out, and then it took like 20 turns to kill me, but my opponent was constantly just casting 2 instants or sorceries a turn because this kept letting them recast things from the grave. So that is really good if we want to try to splash in a little bit of white for that, but we also just have Creative Outburst, which is just super good in what we're already doing. So I think I'm just going to take Creative Outburst. It's not incredibly hard to splash in Prismari. We could have some treasure production. We've got the Stormkilns and the Outburst, but I'm just going to take another Creative Outburst. I think that is going to go swell into our deck, and yeah, I think I'll be fine with it. Mentor's Guidance or Kelpie Guide here seem great. Kelpie Guide, a 3 mana 2/2 that ramps you up. It's a mana accelerant, which is nice. Definitely in Prismari it's nice because we're trying to hit those like 7 mana spells. But the Mentor's Guidance can be a really good draw spell. You scry 1, then draw a card, and if you control any of the card types it cares about, then you do it again. So scry 2, draw 2 for 3 mana is really good. So if we have a lot of Clerics, Druids, Shamans, Warlocks, or Wizards, we could go for that. We have 3 Wizards. That's it. We just have 3 Wizards. Yeah, I don't think we can do Mentor's Guidance. We don't have any of the other card types it cares about, so we'll just scoop up a Kelpie Guide here. Seems like a solid accelerant, and I think I'm happy with another one. The other thing about the Kelpie Guide is in the late game, this can start just tapping down your opponent's biggest threat every turn to help you survive there. So I think another Kelpie Guide seems really great to me. There's also Introduction to Prophecy, which is an option so we get more lessons. Right now we don't have a lot to choose from. We have 2 different summonings and an Introduction to Annihilation right now. Well, we're not doing terribly in terms of lessons currently. Quandrix Command's a really good card, but I don't think it's super splash worthy because this is one of those cards that is the better the earlier you cast it, so trying to splash it is just going to be a lot weaker than you hope for. Just take a Kelpie Guide. Ooh, I think I'm pretty fine to take an Elemental Summoning here. We got a Befuddler, 2 apprentices as our 2 mana creatures. Got a ton at 3 mana. I think we have enough cheap stuff that we don't need the Illustrious Historian, because we're not trying to be aggressive. We just need enough cheap stuff to not immediately die most games, and I think that we have that. Although Historian is pretty great, being able to trade with something. As a 2/1, it trades into anything with 2 toughness or less, and then late in the game, just spend 5 mana, get a 3/2 out with it as well. I do like the Historian, but also just really like Elemental Summoning. It's a great lesson. Another Elemental Summoning, or a Prismari Campus, or Elemental Masterpiece. Quandrix Pledge Mage as well. This card works really well with anything that learns, because then you just cast a learn spell and then cast the lesson it grabs. That's 2 instants or sorceries for the Magecraft. Like, learns and lessons all just work great with Magecraft abilities. So Quandrix Pledge Mage is like double blue and 1 for that. It does seem okay here. I think I'm just going to take a Prismari Campus, though. We don't need Elemental Masterpiece because we do have the double Creative Outburst. We don't need another Elemental Summoning. We already have 2. I think I'm cool taking a Campus here. Just a great mana fixer. And I can take another Spectacle Mage here. I can also take another Stormkiln Artist, get our 3rd copy of that. Enthusiastic Study is one of the better pump spells, because a pump spell plus a learn, so that it doesn't even really cost you a card. It replaces itself with like a 5 mana 4/4 later on. It's pretty good. Solve the Equation seems like more of a constructed card. Unless you have like some really, really good instants or sorceries, this does put you down a card to do it. You're spending 1 card just to turn that card into something better. I guess it doesn't put you down a card, it just, you're spending 3 mana, not immediately impacting anything. Take a Bury in Books here. Got 17 creatures now. I think we're doing fine on creatures. Don't really need the like 3/1 that's a little hard to target. I guess we don't have like a ton of win conditions here. We're just like killing opponents' creatures, then leaving behind some mediocre creatures to slowly ping away at our opponents. I guess the Tome Shredders are kind of our win cons here. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, take an Introduction to Prophecy here, get some more options in our lesson board. There's also Make Your Mark, though. We can cast this in Prismari just for a single red mana, make a creature trade up by giving it +1/+0, and then it even turns into a 3/2 afterwards. Certainly not bad. Although I think I will just take the lesson here, because again, we're not massively aggressive for cards like that. We can take a Start from Scratch to have that artifact removal at our disposal. We can take a Soothsayer Adept for a nice draw spell in the late game, or Historian to trade with something in the early game and come back as a 3/2 later. I like all 3 of these cards. I think they're all fine picks. I think I'll go with the Soothsayer here. Get some more card draw going on. Soothsayer a wizard? It is. So how are we doing on wizards now? Still just 4 wizards. I have 8 shamans. Does this care about shamans? Oh my god, I didn't even realize it cares about shamans too. I have 8 shamans in here somehow. I don't even know how that happened, but I guess we'll take a Mentor's Guidance because we have 8 shaman creatures. So we actually have 12 cards that work with it. 8 shamans and 4 wizards. I didn't even notice the first time. We already have 1 Introduction to Prophecy. I could not really foresee a game in which we're going to want to cast 2 of these, so I'll just grab another Bury in Books. Grab the little pump spell here, Sudden Breakthrough. We already have a Curate, and I'm thinking about cutting it, so... Ooh, we did wield the Elemental Masterpiece, and we could actually use that, because we are kind of low on win conditions, and that's a win condition there. I mean, 2 4/4s off of 1 card's pretty big. Alright. Definitely need to do some deck building here. So we ended up with a pretty good lesson board. I could have sworn I had 2 elemental summonings. Maybe I had a brain fart somewhere. I must have, because there's only 1. Well, my bad on that one. We could have used 2 elemental summonings. I think that would be fine, because it is a good lesson, but having Elemental Spirit and Fractal Summoning, that's probably good enough in terms of creatures to grab out of our lesson board. And yeah, we have 5 different spells to grab. Seems like a pretty good lesson pile. I'm happy with that. We get to cut 11 cards out of this deck. Try to just get it all zeroed in on the best strategy here. Twin Scroll Shaman's only really good if you have a lot of pump spells to work with that double strike ability, so that doesn't seem great. Oh, I guess Spectacle Mage is the Shaman, so there's 3 of them. The Stormkiller Artists are Dwarf Shamans. The Ogyar's an Ogre Shaman. The Prismari Apprentices are Human Shamans. Alright, yeah, definitely a Mentor's Guidance deck. Yeah, I'm going to cut Twin Scroll Shaman because we don't have a lot of pump spells. I'm actually considering just pumping the ones that we have. Sudden Breakthrough here. It does give us a treasure token, so it does give us that one-time ramp into some of our bigger spells, but we're hoping for more consistent ramp like Spectacle Mages and Maelstrom Muses. That'll give us permanent cost reductions as long as they're around. I'm probably getting rid of the counter spells here, get rid of that Whirlwind Denial. Maybe get rid of Pop Quiz. We'll see how much learning we have. Yeah, I like going with just like the really expensive instants and sorceries there and then go for the cheaper creatures. 9 cuts to go here. Do we have any creatures that learn? Dreamstrix learns when it dies. I think that's it. Yes, so Dreamstrix learns when it dies. That's 1 learn card. Divide by 0 learns. That's 2. I think I could see running like 1 more learn card here because we do have 5 different options in the sideboard. So we can keep like a Pop Quiz in. That's probably our best learn. Draw a card and learn instead of just like -4, -0 and learn. Though our curve has panned out to be decently aggressive. So maybe the combat trick plus a learn is okay here. I don't think we're doing Curate. We could actually do the Sudden Breakthrough with the amount of creatures we have. Yeah, I do have a lot at 3 mana right now. I'll get rid of the Pop Quiz. 7 cuts to go here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have a lot of instant sorceries right now. And it's kind of what you want with the Tome Shredders and what you want with Spectacle, Maelstrom Muses, all of that. Maybe we do cut a Sudden Breakthrough or an Arcane Subtraction. So if we're cutting any creatures, what creatures are we cutting here? Can we turn this deck more aggressive? What are our least aggressive creatures? I mean, Kelpie's kind of not very aggressive, but it really works with the 7 mana spells that we have access to. Pillar Drop Warden's not aggressive. Battleseer's not aggressive. Although I think Pillar Drop Warden's just a very good card. Battleseer I'm not so sure about. Maybe the Vortex Runner even. If we cut those, we still need to cut 4 cards. This is a pretty high-powered draft format. I find myself in deck building often just having to cut cards that I'm like, these are all good. These are all good options. I like all this. Three more to go. Probably have enough big stuff. We don't need like double Burying Books, but I could still be interested in one of those. They are like solid on curve. If you just dump a bunch of creatures out and then start throwing all their creatures back in their deck. But then that'd be like if we want to get really aggressive here, we would just like cut the 7 mana stuff, throw the Burying Books back in, get some more of the cheap creatures back in. It's an option. I really like casting 7 mana spells though. These things are huge. Still need one more cut. Mentor's Guidance, because it copies itself as well, is really good with Magecraft, so that's like really good with the Stormkiln Artist. Get 2 treasures when I do that. One final cut here. Yeah, I like Pillar Drop Warden, but maybe it's just really not what we're doing. Yeah, I'll get it out of here, go with this as our final deck. Check how our colors are looking, make sure the auto-suggester gave us the correct lands here. We've got 16 blue cards, 17 red cards. So very even, slightly less blue. Looks about right, 7, 8 here. Seems good to me. We got that double campus to help with mana fixing. That's going to be really nice. Let's try this out. Pretty aggressive Prismari deck, but then with some solid 7 mana spells in the late game, as Prismari tends to do. Multiple ways to cast those early. Try to cheat them out with our Maelstrom Muse and... Ooh, speak of the devil. So we don't have blue mana immediately here. We only get to play Tome Shredder turn 3. If we draw any land, we get to Stormkiln Artist on turn 4, and then if we cast spells, we get treasure. I don't think I can justify the keep here. I think it seems really risky, because the only thing that we know we get to do, regardless of draws, is a Tome Shredder, with no instants or sorceries in the grave yet. Yeah, I'll mulligan this one. This I will keep. And I think we get rid of Kelpie Guide, actually, because everything in the hand is already castable if we draw one more land, so we don't need to ramp up for anything we currently have. Yeah, that seems like the choice to me. Spectacle Mage, that's another one of the cards to cheese out the really expensive spells. I just forgot the name of it when I was talking about Maelstrom Muse earlier. Quandrix Pledge Mage. I think I want to just cast the Befuddler right now. The Pledge Mage is very likely to be a 3/3 by the time it attacks, and if it isn't, all they need to do is cast one spell, one instant to make it a 3/3, in which case they can eat my Befuddler if I try to do the trade. So I don't think surprising them with a Befuddler is going to do much for me. It's probably better to get my mana used right there in case I hit my 3rd land, because now I'm going to be wanting to cast a 3 mana spell for every other turn for basically the rest of the game. So we're just not going to have another good time to cast Befuddler. And I would like to just Urza's Rage and kill that Quandrix Pledge Mage before it goes off. This card can get really big really fast with its Magecraft ability. Really good with learn cards into lessons. Really good with some of the spells that copy themselves, like the one that we have. I forgot the name of it, the Scry 1, Draw 1. There are a lot of things you can do with the Pledge Mage to make it go off very quickly. I think I want to just put some flyers out here against a Quandrix deck. Quandrix is the green-blue college, and they tend to have a lot of ramp. As you can see from Quandrix Cultivator, they're going to end up with some really big creatures on the ground. They are in blue, so they can have some flyers, but I don't think I'll be able to crack in on the ground ever. So if I want to hit my opponent, I'm going to have to start getting these flyers out. Well, there's Frost Trickster, which does definitely work here. Mage Duel as well to go ahead and kill my Spectacle Mage. Now we have a Pigment Storm. We're 1 mana off from that. If my Spectacle Mage survives, we can cast that next turn. So I think we drop Spectacle Mage. It's our best chances of actually killing one of their creatures with Pigment Storm. As you can see, it now costs 4 mana instead of 5. I'll just take the 5 damage here. Elemental Masterpiece only costs 6 mana now. I think Spectacle Mage is really important to keep on board here, so I don't think I'm going to want to block Frost Trickster ever, but I also don't have good blocks for Quandrix Cultivator right now. So maybe I kill that because it's doing 1 more damage to me every turn. Yeah, I think I do. It's just hitting me harder here. See if they have any flash creatures. They have their own Barog Befuddler. Stop 1 damage and trade Befuddlers here. I'm actually very happy if they do trade Befuddlers. Wait, why did they... They could have kept their Befuddler around if they just reduced the damage on the 2-1 on the ground. I don't think they have to worry about their life total here. They're definitely in the aggressive spot. But I was already, like, before they even cast the Arcane Subtraction, I would have been very happy trading Befuddlers there, because I think it would have been worse for me if they just decided to attack me with the Befuddler, just take the 2, because I am getting very worried about my life total. Well, Divide by Zero cannot return tokens, unfortunately. The only card we can return right now is Frost Trickster. That would be terrible to return, because they just get the Enter the Battlefield effect again. I think I just pass turn, I hold up for Sudden Breakthrough, because then I can Sudden Breakthrough and have the mana for Divide by Zero thanks to the Treasure Token, or I can use the Treasure Token later on to potentially cast Elemental Masterpiece. Just try to kill that 4/4 off of a block here. It's not likely to pan out well, but we'll find out. They could even just have pre-combat removal. That would get rid of the risk of blocking, because then we just have no choice. See if it works here. Does it? It does indeed. So we are just down to 7 then. If they tap out for something, we're going to Divide by Zero, but if not, we'd rather hold on to this treasure to get closer to Elemental Masterpiece. But if they play like a really big explosive spell, we can hold them off a turn. They paid 3 mana, so they draw 3 cards. If I put it back in their hand, they can just recast it for 3 anyway. Yeah, we allow that, I think. So that means we get to get 2 treasure tokens and scry 2. That's actually fantastic, because now we have enough treasure to Creative Outburst. Or Elemental Masterpiece. They have 4 mana up, though, and they've just drawn 3 more cards. So it is a better deal for them than us, but we do get to do something out of it here. Do I want to divide that by 0 in their end step? So they have to recast it next turn. 2, 3. I'd have 4, 5, 6. I'd still have enough to Creative Outburst. I think I'd rather hold on to the treasures to be able to maybe cast 2 of these things. I definitely want to Creative Outburst first, and I'd like to do it while they're tapped out. Kill their biggest flyer here. They could have a negate, though. We've seen many of those in the Mystical Archive. So in this situation, what's best for us? Honestly, none of these. A bunch of blockers on the ground, and then a draw spell? I guess the draw spell, because it digs into more removal? Possibly. Stormkiln could be interesting. Then when we cast stuff like Divide by Zero and the lessons that it grabs, we are getting more treasure to help cast the other things. Stormkiln or Practical Research here? Take the Practical Research. Bookworm. 7/7, they gain 3 life, draw a card. That is very, very bad. We'll have to bounce that later. Take 1 here. Guess I could double block with a couple 4/4s if I get the mana for Masterpiece, and I did. Now I do have 5 mana, so I have enough to cast Practical Research without Spectacle Mage. So I think now I'm okay to trade Spectacle Mage into the Needlethorn Drake. Just trying to clear their board. I guess Bookworm gets to go back, doesn't it? Go back from your graveyard into your library, 3rd from the top. They had another Frost Trickster to just tap down our 4/4 anyway. Frost Trickster, definitely the best blue common. Unfortunately, we did not see any of them in our draft. Yeah, we can't. We have to just stem the bleeding there. They trample over for 3. We can't not block there. We could not block Needlethorn, just take 4, go to 2. Yeah, probably better to trade into Frost Trickster if we can. Bookworm slaps. If you make it to 8 mana, it replaces itself, you gain 3 and draw a card, and then if it ever dies, it just keeps coming back. That is terrifying. Yeah, I mean, we're incredibly dead. I'm sure there's a way to survive this one turn, but we have nothing in our deck that can come back from this. So I'm just going to scoop them up there. Preserve my brain juices for next round, where we may have a chance. Alright. Stuck on red again. We can discard these for treasures, but it's basically taking a mulligan because it's putting us down a card. Just for a treasure token to cast a single, like, Spectacle Mage. Yeah, we gotta just mulligan here. This is very nice. We can Prismari Apprentice into the Mentor's Guidance, and that can draw us cards to basically unmulligan us. That'll be really nice. Opponent starts with Eye Twitch, really solid card. Little 1/1 flyer, and whenever it dies, you get to learn. It just trips away for 1 for a little bit, and then whenever you sacrifice it, or whenever it chump blocks, you get some value there, which is really nice. Want to set up our draws here. Definitely want to draw Urza's Rage. And Tome Shredder? Sure. Let's just start flopping out some hasters, I guess. Spectacle Mage is the draw. Nothing to Spectacle Mage into. Just plop out a haste creature and send them all in. They get to learn here. They're probably learning for the spell to grab a land out of their deck. No, Introduction to Prophecy, scry 2, then draw a card. They did draw their planes now, so it looks like they are on Silver Quill. Pilgrim of the Ages grabs another planes from their deck, and late in the game, 6 mana brings us back from grave to hand, so they can just keep casting it over and over, thin out the deck, get all those planes out of there. We have a Sorcery Engrave, so we can make Tome Shredder a 3/3 here, so that it can start attacking in later. Maybe we just drop a Kelpie Guide then, to ramp us up. If I want to get aggressive, I can throw Pilgrim back into their hand, or I can burn it with an Urza's Rage. Kelpie Guide or Spectacle Mage, I think, are my options here. I guess Spectacle Mage, so I have a flying attacker after this turn. We'll make our Tome Shredder a 3/3 now, so the 3/3 can attack into the Pilgrim. We'll bounce whatever they play next turn, just divide it by 0. That'll make this unblockable. This will be a 3/3, so it can attack into the Pilgrim, and this is flying, so it can attack over the Pilgrim. So if they just play one more creature, we can throw that back in their hand, and everything else can get in. If it's another Pilgrim, that's a bit awkward, because throwing it back into their hand means they can just recast it later, get another Plains. Would have preferred just a big dorky creature that doesn't have a good enter the battlefield effect, but we'll take what we can get here to stay aggressive. Ooh, unless we draw a Stormkiln Artist. Yeah, if I can start stacking on just a ton of effects for every time I'm casting something, that would be awesome. Although if I bounce a Pilgrim, I do get in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here, put them down to 9. Unless they chump block with a Pilgrim. I don't think I want to bounce a Pilgrim. Maybe I just shoot one then and save Divide by 0 for a bigger creature. Then I could still get aggressive here if that's the plan. I don't know. I'll go for the Stormkiln Artist here and just hit in the sky. Set up for really big plays next turn where we could cast multiple spells and get multiple treasures, have that attacking as a 4/2. Spiteful Squad is the play. Well, that is a creature I'll be very happy to bounce now. We'll divide that. Get a treasure. Prismari's unblockable. Get a lesson. I think I like just elemental summoning for next turn. I do like that here. And then I can now attack in. If I kill one of the Pilgrims, I can attack him with everybody but Stormkiln Artist. But if they want to kill this Tome Shredder, they do have to double block it, so I do attack in well with everything except the Stormkiln here, without casting anything else. So I kind of want to do that and then cast a Kelpie Guide or Tome Shredder based on what happens. If this Tome Shredder dies, we get to play another one. Urza's Rage is an instant, so if they try to combat trick me, I can get him. I will allow that trade. And now, I think we just make another Tome Shredder and then exile the card in our grave here. The Divide by 0. Those Pilgrims do cost 6 mana to bring back, so if we stay aggressive enough, we can prevent any value from those. Silver Quill Pledge Mage. If they just cast the 2/2 again here, we have a really good attack here. We can kill the Pledge Mage, and then when Spiteful Squad dies, it doesn't get to move its counters onto anything because they won't have any more creatures. So then I'm fine with any trade that Spiteful Squad makes, if that's the play. A removal spell is the play. Pretty fine with that too. That means I can just kill their only blocker and get in. Not for lethal, but for a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Could try to Urza's Rage the face. Would that be lethal? Attack him with all of these. Hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That isn't lethal. I think better to shoot the blocker. I don't know what happened with my words there. I think it's just better to shoot the blocker. That's what I'm trying to say. I do get to cast another creature after this as well. Probably another flyer here. If they have a Wrath effect, it's likely to take up most of their mana, and then we still have like Elemental Summoning to come back after this, get a 4/4 out at least. And that is the concession from our opponent. So we are 1-1 now. We have lost to Quandrix, and we have defeated a Silverquill. We're on the play here. We got that tapped land turn 1, so our mana's looking great here. Got a turn 2, 3, 4 play. Yeah, that seems really good. Spectacle Mage into Practical Research for a ton of draw. Or Spectacle Mage into Pigment Storm just to get a threat off the board. Playing against a white deck that starts off with Star Pupil. More likely to be in Silverquill than anything else, because Silverquill cares about the +1/+1 counters a lot, but they could also just be an aggressive Lorehold deck, and that looks to be what it is so far. Eager First Year. I could kill that with my Befuddler, and then I just put all the counters onto one thing, so they just have a 3/3. Yeah, then if I have like a removal spell later, I only have to kill one thing instead of two things. I do draw into a pump spell, which is interesting. This is a Frog Wizard, so we could Mentor's Guidance immediately. Although I think I'd rather Spectacle Mage and get ready to cast some big spells. I just need one more land towards them. Stonebinder's Familiar. It's a 1/1. It gets a +1/+1 counter when they exile something during their turn. Interesting card. So it works when they exile things in grave, works when they exile our creatures. They're just going to go ahead and shoot our flyer there, so no 5 mana spell this turn, although we do draw Urza's Rage to just kill their Eager First Year. Yeah, I don't have a lot of action here. I'm down to 16 already. I'll take another 4 probably, because they'll probably cast an instant or sorcery. They're stuck on 2 lands right now. I think we just want to stop their early aggression here and kill that Eager First Year while they're tapped out. I don't think I'm willing to trade with their 1/1 though. If that attacks, I'll just take 1. Especially because I do have this Mentor's Guidance I'd like to cast next turn, and I need a wizard out to copy it. Alright. If I go for the Mentor's Guidance here, they may have a removal spell to kill Befuddler, so I kind of want to attack first. That way, if they try to kill in response to my Mentor's Guidance, I still get at least a couple damage in, which is something. Although I could also hold Befuddler back if I'm scared of them having the 3 mana 2/2 haste dog. I don't think I am. I think I'll just attack in for 2. They're not going to have a flash creature in Lorehold. The only flash is just Burrog Befuddler in this format, I think. Could have a burn spell though, but I don't think they're going to blow it on a 2/1 unless it would counter a Mentor's Guidance. Oh, it happens when I cast it, so they can't even stop it from happening? Oh, they can. They can. That was just the ability on the stack. It didn't copy until it registered that I had one, so yeah, they could have countered it there. Do like drawing a Spectacle Mage here, get a flying threat. It's also big enough to block Stonebind's Familiar, and it helps us cast Pigment Storm Practical Research. I also like drawing the Stormkiln Artist. These are both fine here. We can cast both of them, and they'll both help us cast our big spells. Definitely some fine draws there. There's the 3rd land for our opponent. We'll see if they have the doggy, or maybe just the Lorehold 3 mana 3/3 or something. We'll see. Nothing yet. Should I just leave up a Divide by 0? I doubt it. I think I like Stormkiln Artist better than Spectacle Mage here. Although I do want to also just get in for a couple damage before I cast that. That way they might be drawn to using a removal spell on Befuddler instead of our Stormkiln Artist. They were not rused. They were not tricked. No befuddles were had today. Well, they're hitting us for 1 a turn, we're hitting them for 2 a turn. Eventually we'll start winning this race. Eventually is not right now, though, so... They're hurting a bit. Down to 13, they're down to 14. Drop our Spectacle Mage here, see if they just kept a land of just full of removal. Right, Spectacle Mage survives for now, but that could just mean sorcery speed removal. There's no way I'm blocking that in a million years. There's the pump spell that they were going to use on Spectacle Mage, so we go down to 9 instead here. I really don't want to Pigment Storm that thing, it's a 1/1, but it is kind of just shredding me. Down to 9 now. I think we can just play a Tome Shredder and save it for blocks to be safe. I also probably don't even need to do that, I could just play a Tome Shredder and attack in. But I also like putting counters on the Tome Shredder, so... like, I can hold it up as a blocker, and it still also lends itself well to an aggressive game plan because that makes the Tome Shredder bigger on later turns. So blocking Tome Shredder's just not bad at all here, I think. The fact that it does have to tap to get larger makes it so that this play isn't like overly defensive, because it also, as I said before, it's like lending itself towards getting more damage towards our opponent later. So that's pretty nice. Alright, end step here, so we'll go ahead and exile something. Oh, it happened during their turn, so their dog got bigger. Alright, well at that point I might just kill the dog, but I also can just divide it here. They're at 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10 from Pigment Storm. If they don't have a trick here, they just lose. Pigment Storm does 3 damage because it does the excess to their face. So that'll be exact lethal if they don't have a response. If they do, they're just saving a 2/2, so we got that out of the way on that. But they didn't have much of a choice, so that's fair. The other choice was to die. Well, they have literal lightning bolts as well in their deck. That's pretty sweet. Well, I think we'll use Tome Shredder's ability again here, and then we'll just divide Stonebinder's Familiar by 0. Toss it back in their hand, get rid of all the counters on it, and then they don't have a blocker again. That is really funny, though, that the Familiar cares about... It doesn't matter who's exiling the cards, it just matters that they're getting exiled. So it is playing into that, but now we just get it out of the way, hit them for 6, maybe? We also get to grab a 4/4 for next turn now that we have 5 mana. So we get a good lesson here. Alright, they're down to 4 now. Pillar Drop Warden, just a big old blocker here. So they block there, take 2, Sudden Breakthrough makes lethal. Yep, pretty easy plan here. Sudden Breakthrough, the creature that gets through, that'll be 4. And there we go, we are now 2-1. back into Platinum Tier 1 here. So I'm thinking about editing this deck a little bit. I think that our aggressive plan did end up actually panning out better than the like 7-mana spell plan. The Stormkiln artists have been not awesome so far. Although we don't have much to replace those. Some of our only like 4 mana cards here. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I don't know what the plan is here. Maybe we could throw Academic Disputes back in. But I don't know if I want to be like trading my stuff, forcing trades. Burying Books actually does seem like solid here. Maybe throw in a couple berries instead of the Stormkilns. And then cut one of these 7-mana creative outbursts and throw in a pop quiz or something. Just get our curve a bit lower. Get a little more aggressive. Throw a Vortex Runner back in, but that's just going to be a 2-3 most of the time. Throw in that Arcane Subtraction as a little trick there. Alright, so change the deck a little bit. It's still basically the same pile, just Stormkill Artist has definitely underperformed. So I'm trying out some other cards, we'll see how well they do. This is a nice start again. Turn 2 Prismari Apprentice. We do need to draw land at some point here to cast the rest of the hand, but the Prismari Apprentice is a pretty sweet card. Ooh, and now we've drawn a great curve. We have Dream Strix turn 3. Our pick one, pack one. Don't mind if I do. So our opponent seems to be stuck on green so far here, so they are going to just use a charge through to cycle it, draw another card here, try to hit their second color. Don't know if they're Quandrix or Witherbloom. I suppose we may find out. I would rather get aggressive here when they're stuck on mana than start drawing cards, so I'm just going to play our highest attack power creature. Get that Dream Strix out here. And if they do get to kill it, if they have like another charge through, then we do get to draw a card off of its ability. And we can draw into... I guess we only have 3 mana right now. But we have a ton of 3 mana cards to play, so I think I'd rather just get the 4/4. Yeah, I'd rather get the 4/4 because I have like... If I just grab Spirit Summoning, the 3 mana 3/2, I'm not going to cast it for forever anyway. I'm just going to end up casting Spectacle Mages and Tome Shredders and stuff. But if I grab Elemental Summoning, that gives me something bigger to cast when I'm done doing all of this. So I think that's the better choice there. Do I want a Tome Shredder for haste or play the Flyer here so I can Elemental Summoning next turn no matter what I draw? I like the Tome Shredder for haste, I think. Then if they do play like 1 blocker next turn, we just divide by 0, keep slamming in. And they're just going to scoop them up. They just do 4 forests basically all game as the only mana. And the only green cards in hand seem to be some pump spells. So not a great game for our opponent, but that does put us to 3-1. So did end well for us. No matter what, we've got a nice even run out of this Strixhaven draft, 3-3 at worst. Heading into round 5. Ooh, this is a bit risky. I guess we can, worst case scenario, we can discard this to get a treasure so we can cast at least one thing. We do have both of our colors, so we just need any land. We don't need a specific color. This is a risky one. It also doesn't pan out well if they kill Spectacle Mage. There are definitely several reasons that this is quite a risky keep, but sometimes greed can be good. We did hit the 3rd land immediately, as well as a 3 mana card, or another 3 mana card to play. I think, unless this was already in hand and I'm losing my mind, that can happen as well. Prismari Pledgemane does a 3/3 to block our stuff, so Tome Shredder's not going to be so hot here. We're going to just drop our Flyer first. Also lets us cast these spells next turn if the Spectacle Mage is still around, but against Prismari, they can have a lot of red burn spells to just kill Spectacle Mage on turn 3. They do have Igneous Inspiration, probably the best red removal spell in the whole format. Although they just decide to discard a card and draw a card, so they did not get to get that lesson value out of it at least. Kind of like Kelpie Guide here, our hand's pretty expensive. So being able to ramp up a bit seems great. Archmage Emeritus. A 2/2, whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery, they draw a card. Oh my god. Yeah, that is... We're going to kill that right now, because that is going to draw a million cards very quickly. All they have to do is untap next turn and then play, like, Arcane Subtraction to learn for a 3-mana lesson, and then bam, they've just drawn 2 cards off of that. They just go off. We're going to just kill that immediately. And there are certainly several other combinations of spells there that could have panned out very, very well for them. So now we do still have 5 mana. Maelstrom Muse does allow them to cast like a really big spell here, which could be scary. If they have their own Elemental Masterpiece, we probably just get domed by some 4/4s to end this game. Yeah, the Archmage to pull out our removal was pretty good. Now we don't have anything big enough to kill the Maelstrom Muse. We don't have any flyers here. Do we just hold up for practical research at instant speed, or do I do it sorcery speed here? I think if they're going to cast something, it's going to be something big off of Maelstrom Muse, so they'll have to do it post-combat, which means Pledge Mage won't be attacking, so we don't need Kelpie Guide to block. So I think we just cast practical research right now in case I draw a land this turn. So I can play my land for turn here. We did draw a land. Do I want to just discard a instant or sorcery here? I think I do. I don't think Arcane Subtraction is going to be incredible here, but I do want all of these lands. I'm very scared to see what happens here. There are a lot of spells that they could cast off of a Maelstrom Muse when they have 5 lands out. They have 7 mana available after this attacks for casting instants and sorceries. Now they have 8 mana with that. Tome Shredder pre-combat. Still have 6 mana for instants and sorceries. Or 5 mana. Nothing. Okay, I guess the Maelstrom Muse is not ramping into anything, which is nice. So we do have 6 mana here, so I could play a 7 mana spell. I could cast our Elemental Masterpiece. Then I do take 2 in the sky for Maelstrom Muse, but I hold off the ground really well. I think that's worth it. I could also cast Maelstrom Muse and hold up Urza's Rage, so my Maelstrom Muse can kill their Maelstrom Muse. Their Tome Shredder doesn't attack in very well against a 2/4 either, although this does play poorly into removal, if they have it. I feel if they had removal, they'd probably just kill Kelpie Guide, so we'll drop Maelstrom Muse here. Because Kelpie Guide's like our only blockers. They just removal spell, then Prismari Pledge Mage can attack, and they swing everybody in. So yeah, if they had removal, I feel they would have already used it. Unless it's combat trick removal, which is looking likely here. But we'll find out. Oh, unless it was just incredibly expensive removal. 5 to a target and 3 to another one. And that is pretty horrible. That would be incredible if we had our thing to bounce a spell back to hand here, but we just have the Urza's Rage to kill the Tome Shredder at least. So we don't get hit too badly here. Down to 11. There's our natural 7th mana for Elemental Masterpiece. We're getting hit for 2 a turn off of Maelstrom Muse, but we might be able to start cracking back with these 4/4s. I'm still really worried about the Muse here. We're not going to have enough flying power to block that profitably. We just have the 2/2. Frost Trickster as well. I'll definitely trade Spectacle Mage into Frost Trickster. We have more than enough mana now to cast our spells naturally. So we can cast our whole hand out here, actually. Would I be willing to trade my Elemental into their Frost Trickster? I don't think so. Like, they double block Pledge Mage Frost Trickster here if I send in the Elemental. But I also, I have to get aggressive at some point. Or else I am dying in the sky. 2 damage a turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 in the grave for Tome Shredder, so that can become a massive attacker over time. Yeah, I think we send that in. We just get 4 damage in. Now we just dump a massive field. It's definitely a race here. My palms are sweaty. Knees weak. Arms spaghetti. Alright, we attempt this trade. Really hope that it actually happens. Okay, it does, so we're just down to 7. We're on a 4-turn clock from flying damage. Ooh, and they have a Kelpie Guide with 7 lands out, very likely to have another land in hand here, or draw into one very quickly, so they can start tapping a creature down every turn. So even if we get a flying blocker, they can tap one down. And a Serpentine Curve is the play. That's just a 3/3 here. Okay, that's not terrible. Alright. We do have the Prismari Campus, so I'm going to make sure to put a stop on our upkeep from now on. So that we can scry in our upkeep before we draw, if we want to. Do we want to send a 3/3 in here? It just trades with Pledge Mage. That seems not great. I think we just keep making Tome Shredder bigger. Although, we're not having a great time here. We're at 7. If they draw into an instant or sorcery, we're in a really bad shape if I attack with both 4/4s. Because then I have these 2 blockers, they get to tap down like Tome Shredder with Kelpie Guide, and then they attack with 2 3/3s and the 2/4 in this guy. I think we have to just hope they don't draw an instant or sorcery. We have to like play to get lucky here. Well, unless they do this, then I'll just kill the thing that can constantly attack, and I'm not nearly as worried about a crackback. If they draw an instant or sorcery. I will play this land because it gives me more mana to scry and be able to cast a spell, so that now I can scry in my upkeep and still have 4 mana up to cast a spell next turn. So we need every single land we can get. What do we have for 4 mana or less that could help us out? We have 1 card that costs more than that, just Creative Outburst. Everything else we could cast at 4 or less. Because we have 2 Burying Books, but we can do that at a reduced cost if we target an attacking creature. So we have 2 Burying Books, Spectacle Mage, Tome Shredder, Mentor's Guidance, Kelpie Guide, Dream Strix, Divide by 0. We got a lot of stuff that is cheap enough to cast after a scry, so if we don't hit something off the first scry, we will scry in our upkeep. We are down to 5 here. If they draw their own creative thingamabob, they just deal 5 to us, Creative Outburst. Oh no, another flyer? That's pretty disastrous. Now we need removal immediately. That is exact lethal in the sky. So let's scry here. Burying Books. That is removal here. Now we can cast at main phase, which puts a counter on Prismari Apprentice and makes it unblockable. They don't have enough lands for Kelpie Guide yet, so they can't tap down Prismari Apprentice or anything. Yeah, keep that. Draw into it. If I do this, I don't get to scry until my upkeep. But if I do this right now, I get rid of the Aerialist. I do have to pay into its ward ability. I just take 2 in the sky next turn. They have Kelpie Guide and Pledge Mage to block. I'm dealing 3 no matter what, so they're at 6. They have to block 1 of these. If they can crack back with Pledge Mage, I'll die. But if not, I take 4 from those 2. Yeah, if I attack all here, they have to block 1 of my 4/4s, so I kill Pledge Mage or I kill Kelpie Guide. And I put them to 2, so if I make Prismari Apprentice unblockable, I win. I think that's our best bet here, is to send in the attack. Kill the Prismari Pledge Mage on blocks, hopefully. We kill something on blocks here. Ooh, if they give us the choice, do we kill Pledge Mage or do we kill Kelpie Guide? I think we kill Pledge Mage, because if we kill Kelpie Guide, then if we kill Kelpie Guide, then drawing a land doesn't let them tap something down, but if they just draw a land, they can tap a thing down and they have Maelstrom Muse. They attack with Maelstrom Muse, tap 1 of my 2 attackers, and take lethal from the other one. So if they just have Kelpie Guide, they can't attack with Maelstrom Muse if they just draw the land for Kelpie Guide. So that also kind of saves us a bit. And we force them into a bad block, probably, if we draw any instant or sorcery. Well, if we draw any instant or sorcery, we just win. If I leave them with Pledge Mage, if they draw an instant or sorcery, I immediately die. So I think I kill Pledge Mage. Yeah, because if they draw the land for Kelpie Guide, it's not actually disastrous for me. So we got a 1 here now. So if they draw any burn to my face, I'm dead, but I was already dead, because most burn is going to do 3 damage, in which case 2 + 3, that kills me. So they do have the land for Kelpie Guide, so they can block things, but they can't afford to attack here, or they die, because if a single creature gets in, they die. Please stop. Oh my god. I probably would have kept that on my turn anyway. I really wish that it would just automatically stop in your upkeep for the campuses. I forgot to put the stop back on because I don't know how to get it to stay there. I think I have to redo it every turn. So we have Dream Strix, so now we have a chump blocker in the sky. Go to combat here. They tap something down. They tap down the 4/4. If I attack with Apprentice, they'll just block with the Muse. Obviously, so no attacks. We drop our Strix, and then we scry 1. They can tap down the Dream Strix whenever they draw a burn spell to make a Maelstrom Muse attack lethal. Oh yeah, they just have their flyer on top, so they just scry into the flyer again, I think. They scry it to the bottom, okay. I guess they really don't want to die to Prismari Apprentice. They know as soon as I hit an instant or sorcery, they just die. I guess technically not, because they could keep tapping Prismari Apprentice, but if I just go to combat with an instant in hand, I think they'll probably just tap down my 4/4 again, in which case I can just cast an instant after they tap down the 4/4 to kill them. Right now I have 3 creatures, so they have to draw a creature removal spell, or 3 is larger than 2, so one of them gets through. That was not meant to rhyme, I swear I'm not Silverquill. Let's scry here, and then probably again in our upkeep, searching for an instant. Yeah, we have 4 mana up after a scry, we'll do it again in our upkeep. Tome Shredder. They have 4 power on board? Alright, now they need 2 removal spells, so we just drop Tome Shredder, slam all in. Okay, there's the concession. Alright. That was a terrifying game. That was a really interesting back and forth with the Kelpie guide and everything there. We are 4-1 now for Prismari, so now we are slightly above average at the very least. That's what I believe we should all strive to be. Just be better than we were yesterday. And yesterday, I was slightly below average. I don't know if anything I say ever makes sense, but words come out of my mouth. Alright, Prismari Campus is coming down. We got Prismari Apprentice turn 2. We are obviously hoping to draw lands with this sort of hand, but as always, I'm happy to play Prismari Apprentice on turn 2 and get the ball rolling there. Spectacle Mage helps a lot with this hand for these cards. Maelstrom Muse obviously pretty insane with these. They do have the turn 2 Rip Apart to just kill our Apprentice there. Sad day for Prismari. Venerable Warsinger. This does like a million things. If the text box is this big on a card, just kill it. That's how things work. Honestly, though, in terms of ability, this card's insane. It's a 3/3 Vigilance Trample, and every time it attacks, they get to return another creature from their grave to the battlefield, if it's cheaper than the amount of damage that they deal to you. So it has really, really good abilities. So definitely a must-kill kind of card. Prismari Apprentice here. I could also cycle Elemental Masterpiece, so I have the mana for these 4-mana things next turn. I could rather just play a Prismari Apprentice. Definitely not attacking into the larger flyer here. Combat Professor, great. Best white creature at common. My first draft deck, if you have not seen that video, had 3 Combat Professors, and it was pretty sweet, so definitely check that out if you're interested in the Lorehold decks. That was my first draft. We are going to take 3 here. Certainly not worth a chump block this early in the game. Ardent Dust Speaker, that's the thing that can draw 2 every turn for them, but it's a temporary draw. Alright. And what else? Put an instant or sorcery on bottom of their library. So they also they throw Rip Apart on bottom, and then they get to draw 2 from the top. That does seem pretty good. Would I rather bury that in books or Spectacle Mage here? I guess I just play another Spectacle Mage. And I can, like, double block that Dust Speaker to kill it. Doesn't seem great, though. I think we just hope that they draw garbage. To be honest. They kind of did, just a 1-mana card and a mountain. Whenever one or more cards are put into exile during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This triggers only once each turn, so it's a 1/1, it'll be a 2/2, then it'll be a 3/3. I think that gets big slow enough that I'm not worried about the 2-card combo there with those. And I don't want to lose a Spectacle Mage, because now I can actually afford Practical Research and some other stuff here. Burying Books is incredibly cheap. I think we just take 6, go to 11 here. The Tome Shredder. I guess Ardent Dustspeaker doesn't actually exile from the top unless they exile an instant or sorcery from their graveyard. So now it's just a 3-4 with no abilities. And Stonebinder doesn't do anything, Tome Shredder doesn't do anything. They don't have any more instants or sorceries in graves, so they have to wait till they draw something else to have that go off. I can play a 2-4 flyer so I can actually block their Combat Professor here, and that makes sure I can cast Elemental Masterpiece next turn to have great blocks on the ground as well. Seems fine to me. I think we drop that out, send in the Spectacle Mages. Although these Practical Research and Burying Books would both be solid plays here as well. They would both put a counter on our Apprentice, as well as making it unblockable this turn. And Burying Books would slow our opponent down if we're very worried about our life total, which we should be a little bit. We're down to 11 here. But I just don't think they have incredible attacks here. They have solid ones. Yeah, they can just send in the 4-4. That's basically it. We go down to 7. Interesting. Okay. I mean, we can kill that without losing a creature. And then we take 6. We are going down to 5 life against a red deck, which is bold. But they are also going down to 14. We have 6 power of flyers. We hit for 6. They go to 8. We've got Elemental Masterpiece for multiple blockers and a Burying Books to throw something on top. If they have a combat trick here, we're pretty out of this game altogether, because if they have a combat trick, that puts an instant or sorcery in grave for Ardent Dustspeaker's ability, which triggers Stonebinder, which triggers, like, the whole Rube Goldberg machine just gets activated if they have a combat trick. Alright, it looks like they did not. Just an Illustrious Historian just chipping in for some damage there. Alright, here we go. Now I get to cast an Elemental Masterpiece, have multiple blockers on the ground. I could even, if I attack with Maelstrom Muse, do that and hold up Burying Books, which seems great, but then I don't get to attack with Prismari Apprentice this turn. I think it's worth it to have access to Burying Books because of how low my life total is here. Just play it really safe. And we're holding both of our other flyers back so we can double block Combat Professor now, because now I don't think we need the cost reduction on the Spectacle Mages anymore. Prismari Apprentice is going to be a 4-4 when our turn comes back. Yeah, we're about to combo off and just hit him in the sky for an insane amount. I do hope they try to attack in here so we can cast Burying Books at instant speed. That would be very good, because then we get another counter on Apprentice and we have all the mana up for Practical Research next turn. And we get rid of their only flyer. Oh yeah, because then we hit, they're at 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not quite lethal, but we can hit for just 1,000,000 next turn with completely unblockable creatures, if this resolves. Ooh, it does not resolve. Alright, well I'm very glad I did that pre-blocks, because now I just have to block there. If I did that post-blocks, I'd be dead right now. And if I went for the double block, I'd lose both Spectacle Mages, so that still panned out pretty well. We also get the counter on the Apprentice. So we do have Practical Research here, which puts another counter on Apprentice and gives it unblockability. We could draw into a 2-mana spell. I guess I should have held onto the land until I cast this in case I want to discard just 2 lands. Oh yeah, I really want to hold on to Divide by 0, but then I discard Tome Shredder and Befuddler. I think we have enough. We have enough in terms of threats on board to close out this game. So I like Divide by 0 just to be safe here. I did already play land for turn though, so I can't actually cast it like immediately. But it does give Prismari Apprentice unblockable. Like next turn, it's not unblockable right now. I can cast it if I attack with Maelstrom Muse. Yeah, I discard land, Tome Shredder. Now I can Befuddler or Divide by 0. So we send in... We go to full control, we send in these two. We have 3 blockers up, and we throw Combat Professor back in their hand. They have 4 attackers. 4 attackers, we have 3 blockers. We can survive that unless they have a combat trick. And this hits them for 7 now, and then if we hit them, if we cast an instant or sorcery next turn, we unblockable with Prismari Apprentice for lethal next turn. Yeah, so we do that, resolve that ability, make Divide by 0 cost 1, get rid of the flying blocker, and make Prismari Apprentice unblockable before they can declare blocks. And then we just grab any lesson here. It doesn't matter, so that we can give Prismari Apprentice unblockable next turn. So we're hitting for 7, they're down to 5, unblockable 5 damage next turn will kill them. So what is the best lesson? We only have 1 mana up, there's no 1 mana lesson. We probably would like another chump blocker if things don't pan out and they kill our Prismari Apprentice. So I'll just grab Spirit Summoning so I can spend double red and 1 on Spirit Summoning and 2 on Befuddler, get 2 chump blockers next turn if things don't pan out. And if things do pan out, then just cast Spirit Summoning. Prismari Apprentice is unblockable. Hits them for 5, they're gone. This is such a complex format. There's so many lines and stuff available with so many of the different colleges, all the different things you can do. Like I feel like each different one can play in a very interesting, very synergistic way. Well, there's also that can just kill you. We have 1 blocker, so we're dead. Yeah, they've expanded Anatomy as well. That'll do it. But yeah, no, like even their Lorehold deck here with all the different synergies and stuff, like Ardent Dust Speaker attack in, exile the stuff, Stonebinder gets counters from exiling there. This can come out of the grave and give that counters every time they're getting rid of something in grave, they're scrying 1. Yeah, we're infinitely dead on board here. Unfortunate. I think we did the best we could. I think that was the best play we could have made, because then we just spam in for lethal here if we survive this turn. We clearly did not, though. So that will put us to 4 and 2. Still at 4 wins regardless, so we are pretty much breaking even in terms of gems. So that's pretty nice. Unfortunately, though, it is now not possible to get out of Platinum in this draft. We can't get up into Diamond. Even if I win the next 3 games, I'll be Platinum Tier 1, only 1 tick away. But that would still be kind of cool. We'll see. Try my best to rally into some more wins. Dream Strix turn 3. That's a start. Yeah, this hand's fine. Not a ton going on, just a couple creatures and a pump spell. And we will definitely need to remember not to cast the pump spell on the Dream Strix, because we cannot target it either. If we target it, we also sacrifice it. So we're playing against a mono black deck so far with Excavated Wall to mill some cards. Just holds things off as a good blocker. They grab a Pest Summoning. So they're more likely in Witherbloom if they're playing cards like Hunt for Specimens and Pest Summoning, but those are both also just pretty solid cards, so they could also be Silver Quill. Just running those. I do really like our flyer here to get over the Excavated Wall. That is the kind of card that is going to hold off our ground troops well. There's the Pest Summoning. Also, against Witherbloom, they're just going to have a million 1/1s that gain life when they die, so attacking them on the ground is not often going to do much. Although Witherbloom does have a lot of ways that will make me sacrifice something, as well as them sacrifice something. So could have a lot of removal in this deck. But at the very least, Dream Strix is really solid here, because if they do kill it, we still learn off of it, so we still get a card out of it, which is very nice. I think, as always, we'll probably just end up grabbing our Elemental Summoning here. Alright, nice. We actually did get a full card out of that, so I'll take it. Yeah, I think I'm just grabbing Elemental Summoning as always, because next turn we're going to be playing Tome Shredders and Spectacle Mages and cast that turn 5, give us a later gameplay. Maybe even we're supposed to just take the Fractal Summoning there. Although now we can just grab it off a Divide by 0. They have double Excavated Wall here. So we are never getting it on the ground. Let's just drop our Spectacle Mage. They do have Self-Mill available if they want it. But they did not use the ability there, so I guess they're just playing them as some nice walls. I'll block here. They have to use a combat trick to kill Spectacle Mage, so we'll get rid of one here. Nice, and that cost them a full card because they used it on a token. Tokens can't come back to the field. So, just a trade of Infused with Vitality for my creature there. Now we'll just play a 4/4 to block the pests. They got one card in hand. They just have Excavated Walls and 1/1s, so 4/4 can block that for days. Even the Tome Shredders can block the pests all day long. I think we should be able to stabilize well. Blood Researcher makes that a scarier proposition, but Divide by 0 can deal with that quite well. Because Blood Researcher is going to be getting bigger and bigger, and it has Menace, so it races in well. It's really hard to block. But with Divide by 0, we can put that back into their hand at some point, and that'll get rid of all of the counters on it, so that'll be really nice. I think I just passed turn here. Although our 4/4 attack's in okay, I like being able to block Blood Researcher, because I don't really want to Divide by 0 it until I'm getting rid of all of the counters, so I want to wait till I kill this last pest to divide our Blood Researcher by 0, or their Blood Researcher by 0. We also have the ability to double block and give First Strike to our Tome Shredder or something here, and that could kill it. So I think our propositions of blocking are pretty nice here, and we have good abilities to use in the worst case scenario. Arcane Subtraction and Divide by 0 are both pretty good panic buttons. Tome Shredder is going to get big enough to attack through these walls eventually, which is nice. Divide by 0 on Biograph is kind of nice, but I guess they can just spend the full 5 next time and not have to sack a creature, so it doesn't super matter. They have used all of their life gain, so I'll go ahead and Divide by 0 here. We have more tricks to use, so we're not losing all of our instant speed play. And now we can grab that Fractal Summoning, just get a huge creature later. Ooh, Spectacle Mage. They have no cards in hand, so all I have to do is just Arcane Subtraction for the 4/4 to just eat Biogruff. So I only need like... I only need 2 mana up here for the attack. So I could cast things pre-combat if I really want to, but looks like we're just going to be eating these Excavated Walls slowly. I'd rather play another Tome Shredder here. I only have 1 instant in grave right now, so I don't think so. I think I'd rather that one just be a 4/4. So we'll play this, hold on to our instants. Or we could play Tome Shredder. I mean, a 1-for-1 trade of Tome Shredder into Biograph is not bad, but with these tricks, I think we could do so much better. Like, trade our 4/4 into their 5/4, sure, that's okay, but the Tome Shredder can get even bigger throughout this game. It can turn into like a 5/5, and Arcane Subtraction also learns a card, and we really want to do that, so like this, like if they attack here, it works so much better for us than if we had just accepted the 4/4 trade there and played another Tome Shredder. Because now you just get to draw another creature here. Eat that Biograph. Witherbloom Pledge Mage. Alright, they do have a much bigger creature now. 2 lands away from Kelpie Guide going off. We can sudden breakthrough to break through their Pledge Mage. No pun intended. I think we just attack in with everybody, get some damage in here. We can just play a Spirit Summoning and a Sudden Breakthrough, and that'll be enough to block Pledge Mage if they attack. Could also just play another Tome Shredder. That's probably better than the Spirit Summoning right now, because we do have another Instant Engrave. Yep, play the Tome Shredder. We can Sudden Breakthrough with that on blocks. And if we don't have to block, we could just put a counter on it. Combat tricks are like really good in this format. I usually am not a big fan of combat tricks, but this format, just with Magecraft, with cards like Tome Shredder, all that sort of stuff, kind of forces you to try them out a bit, and they do pan out really well in this format. Why would I spend double red here? I'm not going to Fractal Summoning this turn. Scry 2, draw 2. I'm actually just looking for lands for Kelpie Guide here, I think. I don't think we really need Carrion Books. Although there's the second one, alright. And there's a land, I do want that. I like land a lot here, because if we hit one more land, Kelpie Guide starts going off, and also for Fractal Summoning to be as big as possible. We've got a 3-3, a 3-2 here. We can pretty freely attack with everybody at this point. We have like so much value. We can trade down a little bit. And if they make a double block here, it's going to be disastrous for them. Just checking out our graveyard here, seeing what we could do. I think at this point I've just cast so many combat tricks against them that they're like, I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. If I lose my 3-2, that's not so bad, so we'll just send the 3-2 on the 3-3. Yeah, it's fine with me. We'll take the trade. We've killed everything except their Blood Researcher now, and we can throw that on top so they have no creatures left. We can also just do that during our turn. Just make another threat on board. We've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We've got lethal on board if this resolves. And it looks as though it does. So that'll close out another win for our Tome Shredder heroes. If you've never seen the flavor text on Tome Shredder, it is hilarious. I'll have to take a peek on that next time we draw it. It's pretty incredible. We are at 5 and 2 now, so we're getting 1,600 gems and 4 packs out of this. It does cost 1,500 gems to enter. We are in the monies. Ooh, playing against Llanowar, very nice username. Very, very nice classic username here. This is going to have to be a mulligan. Not only do we need another land, we need specifically an island to cast literally everything in hand, Sudden Breakthrough. We could cast on an opponent's creature just to get a treasure token, I guess. Technically, but basically we need an island to do anything. Oh no. We do need an island to do anything, but we do have Elemental Masterpiece for the treasure token, similar to how we had in our last hand. So this is very slightly better than our last hand, because we also have the ability to cycle a card for 2 mana and give a treasure, just like our last hand had, but we also have a Tome Shredder that we can definitely play. I, however, think it's probably still a mulligan. I mean, mulliganing to 5 in Limited is usually a death sentence, so maybe we just have to get lucky here and just draw that island. But yeah, starting a game 2 cards down from your opponent is really rough. Yeah, I'll keep it. I mean, it's not like a no-lander. If it was like a no-land 5-card hand, I'd mulligan it, but... Yeah, and I'm actually going to get rid of the mountain because just casting a Tome Shredder is not going to be enough for us. So I would rather get rid of the mountain because now we're just all in on drawing a blue source. Well, we do have double Tome Shredder now, I guess. That's something. So the flavor text on Tome Shredder right there. Quintorius, would you care to explain why you didn't complete your homework? It's like the literal dog ate your homework. That is what Tome Shredder is doing flavorfully. It's just eating everybody's homework, which is incredible. It's a good dog. One could say it's a bad dog, but they would be being rude. All dogs are good dogs. Alright, well, we didn't hit the blue source, but we do have the treasure token now. I think I'd rather just play a Tome Shredder. Trying to block a Quandrix Apprentice could work pretty poorly for me. They are in green here. They could have a lot of green pump spells. So if I just like block and exile that to make this a 3/3 blocker, we do just get got by a pump spell. Although if they don't have a pump spell, they probably just don't attack into our Tome Shredder, and then Tome Shredder attacks as a 3/3 later, so... Yeah. Tome Shredder is the kind of a card that can afford not to attack because it gets bigger by not doing that. It gets bigger by tapping to do something else. Makes its later attacks better. Mage Duel. That makes it a 3/4, and they just kill the Shredder. Alright. Well, we could have gotten 2 damage in if we had sent in that we didn't get this way, but they might not have killed it if it was tapped. At least this way, by them having to do that in the main phase, we didn't exile our Elemental Masterpiece, so we still have that left over for our next Tome Shredder. So that can be good. Got Prismari Apprentice here. Now that we have both colors, I think I'm more okay with sacrificing the treasure token here so we can double spell. Although it will work poorly. We have like 2 7-mana cards in our deck. We have 1 or 2 5-mana cards, so the treasure token could still be useful. But if we Kelpie Guide, then we'll have a good start to that anyway. You know, I think I'm okay just playing a Tome Shredder, just doing the same thing again. Gonna hold on to this treasure token. I don't think we're getting in aggressively by playing another 2/2 out at this point in the game. It's just too late for that. So now we're more open to, like, if we draw Creative Outburst, we're much closer to casting it by holding on to the treasure token than we would be otherwise, because now we can cast Kelpie Guide, Spectacle Mage over time here to help cast it. Maelstrom Muse helps a lot too. Maelstrom Muse is actually just a fantastic draw. It blocks Frost Trickster super well. Ooh, Mentor's Guidance is really good with the powerful Magecraft abilities like that on Quandrix Apprentice. That is just going to draw them a ton of cards. Quandrix Apprentice, of course, grabbing them lands every time they Magecraft, and Mentor's Guidance, drawing 1 and drawing a card each time. Another Frost Trickster seems pretty good. Down to 9. Play Prismari Campus here. Spectacle Mage to block in the sky. We've got Tome Shredder blocking on the ground. They've got like the card advantage here. They got 6 cards in hand. We're looking pretty dead in a ton of ways here. Kind of losing on all axes here. Card advantage, threats on board, mana available. There's the Elemental Masterpiece. Well, we have enough mana now to cast a 7-mana spell if we draw into one. And it's probably too late though. We don't have anything that can block 4/4 as well. didn't have another instant or sorcery, so our Tome Shredder is only going to be a 3/3. It can't even block one of them. They do have the Explosive Welcome. Definitely just getting it handed to us by the Quandrix plus Prismari deck. Definitely, I think the best colleges if you're trying to make a 3-color deck. Prismari and Quandrix just work together quite well. Kind of a peanut butter jelly situation there. Because Quandrix is all about ramping up into big stuff. You just have a lot of land-based ramp in Quandrix, which is nice, and then you can cast like some big creatures, some big fractals and stuff in the late game. And Prismari is all about hitting the really big spells in the late game, like the 7-mana spells, so those two just work very cohesively together. And you also have access to all of the green mana fixing to make sure you get all 3 of your colors. So our opponent's got a really sweet deck going on here, and we definitely stumbled a bit in the early game. So we are dead here because they are attacking with 3 creatures. We only got 2 blockers. That will end this Premier Draft run of Strixhaven. So we are now 5-3. Not bad at all, but not great either. Super solid run altogether. It's a pretty fun Prismari deck. Definitely more aggressive than I'd seen a lot of them looking, because they are, so much about hitting those big explosive spells. This deck actually, ended up with more of just a lot of cheap evasive creatures, and those Tome Shredders that can get bigger throughout the game. Those definitely were really nice. So pretty fun deck all around. 5-3, not bad at all. We do get some pretty good prizes out of that one. 4 packs and 1,600 gems. I will go ahead and open the packs for anybody interested in this video. I did get some complaints about that because I used to do that all the time. I don't really do that anymore because I don't really care what's in the packs. I don't really play Constructed at all anymore, and I do end up getting the whole collections from just how insanely much I draft. But this set is actually probably cooler booster packs than any set in recent history on Magic Arena. Time Spiral Remastered in terms of paper sets is really cool, but here, the Mystical Archive just makes pack openings actually pretty sweet, so I will absolutely admit that. Lightning Helix is just an awesome card, and that artwork is crazy. So we got the double rare pack here, Witherbloom Command and Lightning Helix, really nice to start off the pack opening here. Now we got Divine Gamut. All right, not a lot of people like Divine Gamut, but there is Huffrey Ghost Forge. That is an insane card, definitely a massive reason to be in Lorehold if you open that in any pack in a draft. This card's insane. Whenever any of your other creatures die, you just get a spirit copy of it onto the field. So just all your other creatures just replace themselves immediately on death, and they get +1/+1 have trample haste, as well as all your other spirits. So really big limited bomb, and could be fun to build around in Commander and Brawl. Sedgemoor Witch and Village Rites, just some little sacrifice spells here. Yeah, not so crazy, just some regular Witherbloom stuff, but the first 2 packs were pretty incredible. Let's see what we get out of the final pack. Another Sedgemoor Witch, alright. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. But that will end today's Strixhaven Premier Draft. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to stick around, like, comment, subscribe, all of those goodies to let the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoy the content. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more of this, I will be back with more Magic Arena videos tomorrow.